What's going on, guys? You are welcome to webcrony online. In this tutorial we will be building a login system. This simple app will create a new user and log them in once they get their login credentials correct. To waste no time, make sure you are subscribed to my channel before we begin, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, kindly leave a like on it. Now let's begin. Alright, so with my Firefox Developer Edition browser open, I'll press Ctrl+Shift+I to open my console. With my console opened, I will create an empty array called users. So let's do that. Great. So the first function that we are going to create is the function that will register new users. Okay, so let's go ahead and then create this. We will be using arrow functions. So let's do const register, and then with the registration you will take the name, email, and then login password. Okay, so our parameters will be name, email, and finally password. I'll bring my arrow and my curly bracket. The first condition will check whether the user gives us a name, an email, and a password. If the user fails to give us any of these information, we will not be able to register the user. So let's do that. If into bracket there is no name, I'll bring my pipe, which is the or logical operator, if you remember. I will also do same for email. If there is no email, then finally I will check if password dot length is less than 5. So I'll bring my curly bracket and I'll return invalid data. Okay, then we will come to our else block, and in our else what we are going to do is that we will find out whether the user exists. If the user exists, there will be no need to create that user, but if it does not exist, we can go ahead and then create the user. Okay, so I'll first of all find out whether I'll find a user. So I'll say, using my find method, I'll call find user, and I'll say check user dot name equal to the name that we will pass when invoking the function, and if it doesn't work, then check the email. Assign it to the email that will be passed when invoking the function. Okay, so we will have another condition and we will say if there is user, then we will go ahead and then return user already registered. Okay, otherwise if there is no user, we will go ahead and then create our new user. So new user, and with the new user we will have our name, our email, and finally password. Alright, we will go ahead and call our users array and then push our new user to it. Alright, and after that we will return a users array. So let me click on this curly bracket to structure my code nicely and walk you through it one more time. So I have an arrow function called register, and it is having 3 parameters: the name, email, and password. And the first condition is that check if there is no name, or there is no email, or the password has less than 5 characters. If any of these conditions is met, then we need to return an invalid data. Otherwise, find out whether the user exists. So check by the name, and if you don't find anything, check by the email. If you find something, it means the user is already registered and there will be no need to register the user again. Otherwise, create a new user with the data the user gives and then push it to the users array, and after you have performed all this, return the users array. Okay, so I'll run this code. Everything is perfect, nothing is wrong. So I'll just clear everything, and then I'll call my register and invoke it like this. Now I'm going to run this code without giving any argument. So let's see what happens. We get invalid data just as we expected. Now let's say I have a user John Snow as usual, and I have my email as johnsnow@8bo.got, and the password is, let's say, 1234, and I run. I'll still get invalid data because though we have a name, we have an email, but the password characters is still less than 5, right? So let me add one more and make it 5, and then run, and as you can see, we have a new user in our users array. All right, now let me run this code one more time and see what happens. So I run, it tells me that user is already registered. If I change the name to, let's say, John Doe, and run, I still get user already registered, because even though the name didn't match, the email did match. Is that okay? So let me go ahead and create a couple of users. So I'll create Tyrion Lannister, and I'll say Little Lion, and let me change the password to 55 and run. Now it has been added. Let me try another one. Let me try Jamie, and let me say, with the Jamie, I'll say Golden Lion, and run, and I have 3 users. All right, so now we move on to the login part of this whole thing. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create an arrow function called login, and with the login I'll take 2 parameters, the email and the password. Okay, so I'll bring my arrow, and the first condition that I'm going to check is that I'm going to find out whether the data given by the user is correct. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say if there is no name or password has less than 5 characters, then I will say return invalid login details. Then I'll bring my else block, and I'll say I'll first of all check whether the user is in the users array. Okay, so I'll have my user here, and I'll call my users, and I'll apply my find method on it. And because in the parameters we are looking for email and password, we will search by email. Okay, so I'll say user.email equal to email. Okay, so I'll go ahead and then write my condition in the else block, and the conditions that I'm expecting are 2. I want to find out whether the user exists, and if the user exists, is the password correct. If these 2 conditions are met, it means the user has the right credentials to log in. Otherwise, the user doesn't have the right credentials. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say if into bracket user and user.password is equal to the password. Okay, so I'll say return a user. Okay, otherwise we will return invalid login credentials. So let me click on this to structure my code nicely, and let me walk you through it one more time. So I have an arrow function called login, and it has 2 parameters, email and password. The first condition is that find out if name has not been provided, or if the password has less than 5 characters. If it has less than 5 characters, I want you to return invalid details. Otherwise, check whether the user exists. If you find out that the user exists, find out whether the password the user is giving is correct. And if it is correct, return the user. Otherwise, return invalid login credentials. Okay, so I'll go ahead and then run this. Great, so this code works very fine. I'll copy and clear everything, and I'll call my login. So when I run this code, it will tell me invalid login details because we didn't supply the code with anything. Now let me call little lion at hbo.got, and then let's say I forget to bring password, I still get invalid. But when I bring my password, let's say 1234, which is less than 5, and run, I still get invalid login details. Now let's say I have 5 characters, which means that it has met all the first condition, and then run. It will tell me that still there is invalid login credentials. Okay, let me copy this code and paste it back here so that we can check something. Alright, this is supposed to be email, not name. Okay, this is supposed to be email, not name, right? So let me, alright, so I have to say updated in order to avoid unnecessary error. So I'll run, everything is alright. So when I call my login updated and I say little lion at hbo.got, and then I pass my password 12345 and then run, it will tell me that invalid login credentials, because when I come here and then I look at the password for Tyrion Lannister, the password is not 1234, it is 12355. Alright, so I'll clear this 4 and then bring my 5, and when I run, it returns the user. Is that okay? Alright guys, so that will be all for this tutorial. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, kindly leave a like on this video, and if you haven't subscribed already, kindly subscribe, because there are more incredible content such as this coming up. So I hope to see you in the next lesson. Until we meet again, peace out.